In the chaotic aftermath of tyranny, when Rome trembled under the weight of fear and unrest, one man rose, not through conquest or bloodshed, but through wisdom, diplomacy, and balance. This is the story of Marcus Cocceius Nerva, an unlikely emperor who ruled for only 2 years, yet laid the foundation for one of the most stable and prosperous periods in Roman history. From the shadows of Domitian's terror to the dawn of the 5 good emperors, Nerva's brief reign became the turning point that Rome desperately needed. Marcus Cocceius Nerva was born on November 8, 38, in the town of Narni, just north of Rome. He came from an old and distinguished family, one that had long been tied to Roman politics and the imperial court. His grandfather had served as consul under Emperor Tiberius, and his father had been a trusted legal advisor during the reign of Emperor Nero. Unlike many of Rome's past rulers, Nerva was not a military man. He was a statesman, a scholar of law, and a skilled diplomat. From an early age, he was immersed in the world of Roman governance, learning the complexities of Senate politics, imperial administration, and legal reforms. By the time he reached adulthood, Nerva had already earned a reputation for his loyalty to the empire and his deep understanding of Roman law. This made him a valuable figure in the imperial court, particularly during the reign of Emperor Nero. Nerva's first major break came during the reign of Nero. While many in the Senate feared the emperor's erratic behavior, Nerva managed to stay in his good graces. He was not a conspirator, nor did he engage in court intrigues, qualities that helped him survive when many senators and noblemen were being executed or exiled. However, Nero's rule eventually spiraled out of control, leading to his downfall in 68 AD. The chaos that followed, known as the Year of the 4 Emperors, saw Rome plunged into civil war. As emperors rapidly rose and fell, Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and finally Vespasian, Nerva remained a steady and respected figure in the Senate. When Vespasian took the throne and founded the Flavian dynasty, Nerva's political career truly flourished. Recognizing his abilities, Vespasian appointed him to high-ranking positions, and in 71 AD, Nerva became consul, one of the highest offices in Rome. Even after Vespasian's death, Nerva remained influential under his sons Titus and Domitian. Under Domitian, he continued to serve the empire in important legal and administrative roles. However, as Domitian's rule became more autocratic and paranoid, Nerva, like many senators, found himself walking a dangerous line. By the year 96, Rome was drowning in fear. Emperor Domitian, the last ruler of the Flavian dynasty, had transformed from a promising leader into a ruthless autocrat. His reign had begun with order, but over time paranoia consumed him. He purged senators, executed noblemen, and ruled as a tyrant with an iron grip. The Senate despised him. The aristocracy feared him. Even his own household servants grew wary of his cruelty. Then, on September 18, 96 AD, everything changed. A conspiracy involving members of the Senate, the imperial court, and even Domitian's own household led to the emperor's assassination in his own palace. The Flavian dynasty had fallen, and Rome was left without a ruler. With Domitian dead, the Senate needed to act fast. It was an unexpected choice. Nerva was 66 years old, far from a young and ambitious ruler. He had no army to command, no dynasty to claim, and no thirst for power. But he was respected, experienced, and most importantly harmless to the Senate. They saw him as a safe choice, a man who could stabilize the empire without becoming another tyrant. On September 18, 96 AD, the same day of Domitian's death, Nerva was formally declared Emperor of Rome. But his rule was anything but easy. He inherited an empire still shaken by Domitian's oppressive rule, and though the Senate supported him, the military did not. The Praetorian Guard, Rome's elite soldiers, had been fiercely loyal to Domitian. Many saw Nerva as a weak old man, an emperor placed on the throne by politicians rather than warriors. When Nerva took the throne in 96 AD, he inherited an empire filled with uncertainty. The wounds of Domitian's tyranny were still fresh. His purges had instilled fear, his autocratic rule had alienated the Senate, and his assassination had left the empire dangerously unstable. Nerva was not a conqueror. but he was a politician, a skilled negotiator who understood that his rule depended on balancing the Senate, the people, and the military. Under Domitian, the Senate had been reduced to a powerless body, its members living in fear of the emperor's wrath. One of his first acts as emperor was to end the culture of fear. He stopped treason trials, released political prisoners, and recalled exiled senators, restoring Rome's traditional ruling class to its former status. He also passed laws preventing future emperors from executing senators without a fair trial, ensuring that the Senate would never again be silenced so easily. This move made Nerva immensely popular with the Senate, but while the politicians rejoiced, the military remained deeply suspicious of their new ruler. To gain the trust of the Roman people, Nerva implemented a series of public welfare programs. He reduced taxes for the poor, gave land to the landless, and organized games and public events to gain favor with the masses. Financially, he had inherited an empire in debt due to Domitian's lavish spending. To fix this, he took extreme measures, even selling off items from the imperial palace to raise funds. But while these reforms improved his image among the people and the Senate, they did nothing to appease the group that held the true power in Rome, the Praetorian Guard. In late 97 AD, their resentment turned into open defiance. The guards stormed the imperial palace, took Nerva hostage, and demanded justice for Domitian's death. They forced the emperor to hand over the men responsible for Domitian's assassination, including Petronius Secundus, the commander of the Praetorian Guard who had been involved in the conspiracy. Nerva had no army of his own, no military support, and no way to resist. He was humiliated, forced to watch as his own advisors were executed in front of him. This was the breaking point. Nerva knew that without military backing, his reign would not last much longer, so he made a decision that would change Rome's future forever. So on October 27, 97 AD, Nerva made one of the most important decisions in Roman history. He adopted Marcus Ulpius Trajanus, better known as Trajan, as his successor. Trajan was everything Nerva was not, a battle-hardened general beloved by the military, and a man with the charisma to lead Rome's vast empire. At the time of his adoption, Trajan was governor of Germania Superior, one of Rome's most strategic frontier provinces. The moment the adoption was announced, everything changed. The Praetorian Guard, who had defied Nerva, now saw the writing on the wall. Rome had a strong future emperor. With Trajan's name securing his rule, Nerva's final months as emperor were free of crisis, but he would not live to see the full impact of his decision. On January 28, 98 AD, just 16 months after taking the throne, Emperor Nerva died of natural causes. He was 67 years old. But unlike many emperors before him, he did not die by the sword. He left behind a peaceful transition of power, something incredibly rare in Roman history. Nerva's reign was short, but his impact was immense. By choosing Trajan as his successor, he laid the foundation for what historians call the 5 good emperors. Under Trajan, the empire would expand to its greatest territorial extent. His successors, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, would continue his legacy of stability, wise governance, and military strength.